You've heard the term Judas Goat, and so you know what it is. If not, look it up. So, what do I have against organized religion? Well, the Eastern philosophy folks like to proclaim it's not a religion, it's a way of life, or it's a philosophy or a way of thinking. But in fact, non-duality and Buddhism and all these things, it's a religion. I mean, you can pretend it's not, or you can use different words, but it's no different. It's another form of a belief system. Non-duality is a belief system. They would like to claim it's not a belief, it's real. And but you go and indoctrinate yourself in Christianity or Mormonism or any other thing like that, and they'll tell you the exact same thing. It's not a belief, it's the real truth that we are implementing in this world. So everybody says they have the real thing. But I started off by talking about a Judas goat. And essentially that's what they all are. But they're not just that. In other words, they also, they're a springboard to your personal spiritual development. And essentially all of them are. So I'm not denigrating them but I want to make crystal clear that what happens is people get stuck and they spend the rest of their life in that particular religion or whatever, and then the leaders of those organizations act like the Judas goat, leading you to the slaughter, so to say. And the reason I say that is because you get stuck there. And you're following an individual that is vacuous. They don't really have any real truth to offer you. They interpret what reality is. There's a lot of things that come to my mind. One is how hilarious it is in a way if you think about it. Jesus talks about, he's a king, but not of this world, and his kingdom is not of this world, and then his kingdom is in your heart, and all these sorts of things. And then you have the authoritative book from which they study about this Jesus, called the King James Version of the Bible. You get the irony here? King James was a king of this world, and you're studying a Bible developed by a king of this world, which Jesus railed against. This is not my kingdom. This is probably right over your head. You don't get it. Nobody gets it. I mean, you do now, but prior to that you didn't. It's not hilarious, it's disgusting to realize how the original truth has been usurped by Judas goats in every way imaginable. Now, when you take Sanatana Dharma, for instance, and that is another religion, and again, it's a great springboard for it's like priming a pump, You have to put some water down it to get it to go, and then once you get it going, you have an everlasting supply of water. And so that's kind of what all of these things are. But what happens is you get fixated upon the primer, if you will, rather than getting yourself situated for eternal enlightenment, if you will. So here's a fine example. You have the Vedas, you have the Holy Bible, you have all of these spiritual books that are thousands of years old, and then you have people that study it to the point where they have doctorate degrees in philosophy and the study of this and that and everything else. And of course they have a lot of credence because they have doctorate degrees and they can teach Sanatana Dharma, or they can teach this, or they can teach that. Again, not being too critical if you use all of that as a springboard to be self-sufficient, but that's not what's happening in all reality. They use that mastery of the written word to buffalo people into believing the dogma that is absolutely a lie. For instance, they teach non-duality in Sanatana Dharma. Not that the original Sanatana Dharma was non-dual, but that's what they teach nowadays. And that would be the Judas Goat type scenario. The leaders that are teaching that are Judas Goats. They benefit personally from you following them and everything, but you don't benefit, you personally, because you're being led down the path to hell, so to say. Because what they're teaching you, if you stuck with it, would stifle your eternal growth. It would be like a person with a doctorate degree in science and everything, and there's no way the chef can possibly compete with this scientist. And so you go to a seminar and the scientist is reading the label of the soup can and all the ingredients that went into it, and can tell you about the history of those ingredients and the chemicals and how they interact with everything, but he has never cooked soup. And then you have the chef come along and says, well, you know, I don't have any scientific proofs to offer you, but I feel within me that the ingredient of thyme makes the soup taste a little better, and I've played around with different peppers, and I like this particular one, but only if it's cut this particular way, blah, blah, blah. Well, and then the chef produces the soup, and it's like, oh my God, that's just incredible soup. Well, chef, I mean, do you understand the labeling and all that kind of stuff? And the chef might say, no, I really don't pay much attention to what you call your science and everything. But they're going to follow the scientist and not the actual chef, because the chef has nothing to, there has no way to back up his product until you actually taste it. And then what happens in this real world is nobody actually tastes what the chef is cooking. For instance, myself, what I offer, nobody is tasting. They're not interested in what I offer for the most part. What they're interested in is the label on the soup can. And then they pay attention to the lab technician or the scientist that can dictate what's on the label. And I'm not so good at that. I just cook soup. But nobody is willing to taste the soup and judge it for themselves because it doesn't seem to conform to the label on the can. And they go, well, wait a second, according to the label on the can, non-duality says you're God and everything, and you're saying that's not true. I'm not interested in listening to you because you're not following the label on the can. Do you realize that Jesus never followed the label on the can? Buddha never followed the label on the can. Buddha spent 10 years following the label on the can and decided to give up his life if he didn't find something that he wasn't able to get. And in fact, he got it sitting under a tree. Where did Jesus get it? Who knows? Where did Krishna get it? It's too long ago to know. There's no real evidence to find out where Krishna got it, or even if Krishna lived in this dispensation. It's been so long ago. But anyways, the bottom line is, these individuals that actually were the chefs did not have doctorate degrees in can labels. and they could not compete with the scientists and the people that had doctorate degrees and stuff like this. But their soup was phenomenally good. But of course, while they were alive, nobody actually tasted their soup, and very few that did didn't really care for it much because it didn't follow the ingredients on the soup can. So what I'm getting at is where all of these religions and faiths, you need to use them as springboards, because at some point you're never going to become enlightened. You're never going to discover God in a fashion that you really know what God is. None of this is ever going to happen by following the guidelines, by following the soup can label. And so, but they are great springboards, but at some point you have to leave it all behind, and now you have to go directly straight vertical to get the ingredients that you need to be self-sufficient and to be enlightened. And once you do that, you're going to realize, just like all the others that have ever done it, that there isn't anything in the world written that defines how you get that, because you cannot convert that to words. But nobody listens because all they're used to is words. They want words, they want soup can labels, they want Bibles written by King Jameses, they want this, they want that. They don't really, well, they think they want the stuff that comes vertical, but they never actually get there because they're too afraid to put their knowledge and wisdom on the table and go, okay. And now Buddha did that. Buddha put it all on the side and said, okay, I'm done with all of this because I want this. I'm done with all of that, I want this. Most people are not done with all of that. They want to keep building their empire of more and more and more soup can labels. Anyways, the reason I offer that is I'm hoping that you will realize all of these things are springboards. Pay attention to what the gurus are teaching you. Pay attention to what's written in the Bibles and the Vedas and all. Pay attention to these. Pay attention to the sutras and all these things that were written thousands and thousands of years ago. Pay attention to all of this stuff, but realize that all of this is just for you personally to use it as a springboard, because at some point along your path, if not in this life, in some other life, at some point you're going to throw it all down this direction, because you're going to go, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going straight vertical where no man has gone before, so to say. But realistically, you need all of that, or a lot of that, to understand when you get to that point. Well, actually, you're never going to get to that point without a lot of this in place. So just recognize that. Don't get stuck with this stuff over here, but use it personally to get there. And as I've always said, if you cannot incorporate pure love of God, pure love of the Creator, pure love of understand what love is. If you're not capable of that, 100% love, if you're not capable of that, then stick with the labels on the can. Stick with all of these things, because you're not ready for pure vertical. And at some point, if you continue to go along the path and you utilize love and look for ways to help other people without any recompense to yourself, and you continue to do things and you feel it in your heart and soul, and you get to feeling what real love is, and then when you have perfected real love, because it's what you are and it's coming out, and it permeates everything of you, pure 100%, the same love Christ had for those who he said he died for. If that's the kind of love you have gotten to, then all of this is good. Now you're ready for the vertical leap, if you will. But prior to that, there's no point, because you can leap vertical but you're not going to go anywhere because there's nothing there to grab you and pull you up after you've leaped as high as you possibly can. So you're just going to fall back down to the earth. God is not going to grab the devil and go, hey, come on up, it's really great up here. Of course, I'm using hyperbole here, but recognize that that's the way reality is. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.